Hi, my name is Paula Bradley. This is my first video blog called My Commitment to Liberty. Hopefully some of you have seen my first video called Ron Paul Cured My Apathy. If you have not seen it yet, I encourage you to click on my video channel and watch it. About my background, I consider myself an independent and I have voted for candidates of all different parties. Most of my adult life, I voted for the person I thought was the most intelligent, not even necessarily based on the issues. But somewhere along the way, I was led to believe that the federal government had to provide a solution to every problem. I'll even admit it, once upon a time, I was one of those Americans who whined that we just had to have government-paid universal health care because I just couldn't afford it anymore. Well, my views have evolved quite a bit as I've learned more about the philosophies that the founders of our country held dear and which inspired our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. Now, about Dr. Ron Paul and how he has inspired me. During the presidential primary campaign in 2007 and 2008, I began listening to the messages of Dr. Paul. Other candidates were arguing over which was the best method for the government to spend our money for us. But Ron Paul was talking about natural rights, sound money, constitutional government, and the Founding Fathers. I didn't know a whole lot about those topics, and it made me notice the gaping hole in my education. I was a high school valedictorian. I received a bachelor's degree with honors. I watched the news, and I read a lot. But my education in civics and the history of American freedom had been woefully neglected. I realized I received the bare minimum of information about the U.S. Constitution, the natural law on which it's based, the freedoms it's designed to protect, and the limits on federal government that are plainly spelled out in its text. It's a shame and a disgrace that this crucial aspect of our country's basis is being neglected and ignored in schools, public and private, and citizens like you and me have to take the responsibility to educate ourselves. So I started to educate myself by reading a lot, including the entire text of the U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. I reread those two quite often, some of the Federalist Papers, and a whole lot more. I'm going to do another video blog with all my book recommendations, but I strongly recommend to anyone who wants to learn a lot in a short amount of time, The Revolution, a Manifesto by Ron Paul. This has only about 170 pages, so it's a quick read, but everyone I know who has read it said it completely changed the way they think about government. Plus, it has a nice reading list in the back that gets you started on more learning. I also encourage everyone to get his own copy of the U.S. Constitution and read it. I carry a few copies around with me to give away, and I often surprise people when I pull it out during a conversation and look stuff up. Sometimes they seem shocked that I would actually read such a thing as the rules for our government. For all that we like to complain about elected officials, we are their bosses. We can only hold them accountable to the rules if we know what the rules are. It's eye-opening to discover how many people do not even understand the freedoms guaranteed in the Bill of Rights, let alone the powers that are constitutionally delegated and withheld from each branch of federal government. And too many people have no idea of the true vision and intent of the Founding Fathers. Some of this lack of knowledge is due to apathy, and the rest is simply due to the neglect of our children's education. I vow that my children will never suffer such a lack. So, I have made it my mission to make people aware, informed, and educated about the U.S. Constitution and about our God-given natural rights. I don't feel it's my role to convince you of anything. However, I do feel compelled to point you in the direction of important and truthful information so you can make your own informed decision. A decision based on partisan spin, rhetoric, and misinformation is worse than making no decision at all. We have plenty of conversations at our house about the Constitution, government, and politics. My children, who are 14 and 12 years old, probably have a better understanding of freedom than I had throughout most of my adult life, and more than many other adults they know. I am determined that my children will grow up knowing the intent of our founding fathers when they constructed this historic document, that it was designed to protect our freedom by limiting and restraining the federal government, and that our apathy and lack of knowledge allows the government to go beyond the scope of its constitutional power and subsequently erode American freedom. This is the true vision of our founding fathers, a country where the government had a small role to protect its citizens from outside harm and to protect their freedoms and rights, which were endowed on them by their Creator. It's important to remember that rights cannot be given or taken away by the government. Rights are yours simply by nature of your existence. The U.S. Constitution commits the government to protect and not violate them. The founders rejected the idea that government should be a provider of all things for its citizens: housing, food, jobs, health care, education, retirement, credit. These are all things that people can provide for themselves in a truly free society. And the more freedom we enjoy, the more people prosper. The more we rely on our government to provide everything for us, the more freedom we give up in return. Ron Paul's message is all about individual freedom, constitutional government, sound money, free markets, and a non-interventionist foreign policy. This was the true vision of our founding fathers. God bless you all. Thank you for watching. Please check out my other video blogs, and if you enjoy them, please share them with others.